English translation, 145th contact, Monday, 1st June 1981, 1:10 hours.
You are a little careless, Quetzal. From the parking lot up there, one can see that it is your ship down here at the edge of the forest. Especially the light is clearly visible.
Besides Ava, no one is there, and should some stranger approach, then I will find out early enough.
Of course, but you opened the sound-absorbing shield too early. I just heard the rather loud buzzing.
It did not penetrate very far, but for what reason did you call me? You did know, nevertheless, that I would come tonight.
Oh no. I thought that you had forgotten me because I was of the view that you were going to call me to yourself last Monday.
You are mistaken.
Then it is fine. I thought that something had already happened in a negative sense again. Since our last meeting, I have gotten to know all kinds of things that were rather unpleasant, despite the joy I also had on the other hand.
You speak of Miriam and Anatole.
Exactly. So far, we only ever talked about that, so to speak, to the exclusion of the general public because these concerns should not have become known at an earlier time. But now, this leads to the fact that the group members are not oriented over it.
This was deliberately kept in such a manner, as you know. But on the other hand, we have not even completely informed you about everything because we did not want to raise hopes in you that then might not come true.
I know that now, too. Miriam has explained it to me. You were with some of your people in America with your group there. Together with them, you tried, through strong impulses, to win some Americans over to our cause. And you also tried for a long time to give Elsie suitable impulses, to which she should have complied, and she should have sought out those influenced by you.
You have been properly informed about that. But unfortunately, Elsie has hopelessly failed because, like with her first trip to America, she let the country and the people overwhelm her, so she was incapable of receiving our impulses. Her sense was, by and large, only aimed at enjoying a purely private vacation and allowing the foreign impressions of the country and the humans to work uninhibitedly, uncontrollably, and without opposition in herself. Like with her first trip, it led to the fact that she lived there in a completely unobjective manner and ignored her given task and did not fulfill it. On the contrary, she destroyed a lot and made it impossible to deliver an amount of $68,000 to you, which various people were willing to hand over to her if she had fulfilled her mission faithfully to the instructions. In her lust for power, willfulness, stubbornness, self-glorification, obstinacy, and dogmatism, she even caused a dispute with significant persons, whereby she, as always, unreasonably and stubbornly blamed the defects of the other party and wanted herself to be without fault, as she has driven this to the extreme for a long time in an increased measure compared with the group members. She also functions extremely destructively in your group thereby, so it seems urgent that she be excluded from the internal group for the time being, as Miriam told you this on our behalf.
That is a damn hard course, Quetzal. I think that there is still another way, namely that she will be warned one last time, in writing, because she is always inclined to dispute anything that was explained to her or that was otherwise discussed. She always goes so far with it that disputes arise from it, because she always strictly remains stubborn in her denying assertions until a dispute arises. She is just as stubborn with this as with her not wanting to admit her own mistakes, which she always pushes into the shoes of others with precision-like determination. Now the group itself, after the recent broach of Elsie in America, is united over the fact that, first of all, a very last and written warning should be given to her. If she, nevertheless, does not follow this, then she should be excluded from the core group for 2 years, but with the stipulation that she still has to fulfill her core group obligations. If even this does not bring about the necessary change in her, only then would we exclude her completely from the core group. What do you think about this?
A good solution, and it corresponds more closely to the needs of your group than our proposal of an immediate exclusion.
I think so, too, but now to Anatol and Miriam, and I would like to repeat some things, even for the better understanding of those who will later read our conversation. Anatol is a man who was used by a group of extraterrestrials as a contact person to pursue a very specific educational work on Earth. He stands, or rather, stood, in contact with humans of that group, who are under the leadership of a certain Ashtar Sharon. These Ashtar Sharon people previously worked together with the Giza intelligences and were, therefore, expelled by the Pleiadians from the planet Earth and were deported. For the exact data on this, one would have to go to our earlier contact report C, Volume 1, 36th contact on Monday, 20.10. 1975, PMR 460 and the following and 38th contact on Thursday, 13th.11. 1975, PM 488 and the following and Volume 2, 44th contact on Monday, 16.2. 1976, PM 81 and the following, to find these because I know that these things were discussed between you and me officially. Over the last decades, however, Ashtar Sharan and his people have obviously changed to the positive and to the truthly truth in such a form that they were allowed to remain active on the Earth practically, in a reparation process, or in a reparation mission, whereby the Pleiadians have made several of their own older ships available to them. Thus, people of the Ashtar Sharan group already came to the Earth again a long time ago, recently searched for contact here, and worked or work for a certain truth mission, which consists, among other things, of confirming your existence and my mission. Miriam, however, a young girl who is not quite 17 years old, is one of those telepathic contact persons of you Pleiadians, about whom you have told me on occasion. The girl knows Anatol personally, and is also extremely powerfully established in spiritual telepathy and in various other forces, which she should use for the purpose of our whole mission. In the next to last week of May, she called me, and I could ascertain her tremendous strength of spiritual telepathy. Then, through her, I also found out the closer relationships of her and your teamwork, and the unpleasant facts about Elsie in America. But she also spoke of Anatol, who, according to her information, began his public educational work at about the same time when she made contact with me.
Your remarks are correct.
Good, but then there is still the problem of the foreign mission reception. For my part, I think that this project is impossible because with humans like Elsie, one cannot conduct such ventures. Also, we have people in our group for whom such work is in no wise appropriate. We cannot use such non-diligent people for such an undertaking, as well as not roughnecks and querulous ones. Just one such person in a project like this would let everything collapse within days, or cost the assets of all. In addition, Miriam told me, when I reported these arguments to her, that this is correctly thought by me, but it means that 47 to 48% of our group members could lose much of their possessions and goods upon a failure. If this should not be the case, then the entire disposition of all group members would still have to change very much and thoroughly for the better, followed by the planned and much needed and very thorough change for the better, after which, then, what is planned and necessary could be done and be created by all members. Only then could the once intended percentage be raised again or be increased at least to a large percentage of volume.
That is of correctness, and the individual group members should think about that thoroughly. Regarding the negative machinations against you, especially the ones coming from the brothers H and K, we have already been striving for relief for weeks. Besides, Miriam is also in our working organization, so you do not need to worry too much about these intrigues. The dangers have already been flattened in this respect, but otherwise, a renewed threat has appeared. According to our calculations, attacks on your life will threaten you again, so once again, you should exercise more caution.
Okay, I realize that. Only have no fear. What I otherwise still wanted to say, it is now certain that the Americans want to make a great film about us and our mission. In addition, I can no longer volunteer after the recent conflicts of Elsie. I cannot accept responsibility for the fact that various group members simply make dear and nice words and faces for the film, and that this will be shown to millions of people in cinemas and on television, while after that, when many of these humans come to us at the center, they must see and experience that everything was just a sham and an act. Namely, that the promised love, cognition, and the living in accordance with the laws and recommendations, etc., are neither complied with nor exercised by various group members, but that it was just an act for the film.
That is a very logical argument, but a solution should be found nevertheless. Such a film offers a unique opportunity which should absolutely be seized, and which will not appear a second time so quickly. On the other hand, time presses very much because the events slowly start to increase. You should consider this matter again, but I will not make any rules for you because I understand the reasons and your sincerity. But mainly, your foremost decision rests in the impossible conduct and behavior of Elsie and in her failings. Would it not be possible for you to exclude her from the film? It has proven itself over time that you can talk more rationally with the other group members, after which a renewed expostulation of the facts and of the necessary change for the positive could now, at last, bring about the long-awaited and already long-overdue success. You definitely have to explain to the fallible ones all the necessary practices again. Linguistic expressions, necessities of learning, living together, etc. Except Elsie, all group members have truthfully made very great progress, according to which a further exposition and explanation of all facts should now actually produce the change.
You think that Elsie could be excluded from the film so easily?
It lies in your and the group's discretion, and it would be the only solution. Besides, it may be an engaging lesson for her, in terms of her misconduct and failure to observe the mission. At the same time, it should also be made clear to her that other missions to be executed can no longer be given to her in the future and must be transferred, in any case, to the other group members. Her failure is inexcusable because she had very exact knowledge of what was dependent on her mission, but she has, nevertheless, ignored this.
I will think about it. Only after that will I submit this proposal to the group. If I decide on this, it is still questionable whether Elsie will change her attitude and break her querulous head. I know only too well how opinionated, bossy, selfish, stubborn, and shifting of her own fault she is, and how she never wants to admit her own mistakes. As she did with Ta, who once reproached her, she will also say about you some other time that you are unfair and see everything in the wrong manner. Just because she always shifts all the blame onto others and believes that she can cover up her own mistakes by this. Then, besides this, she can become rather abusive.
That is well known to me. Consider everything thoroughly, and if you should come to a positive result, then I would be happy to organize everything again, in terms of the tasks in the center, etc. However, this would require that every single group member observes his or her duties. It would also be the last such effort on my part.
I will report this to the group members, then, after that, I will give you notice.
Good. I expect your reply as soon as possible. Now, I would like to inform you that we have decided to tell you new predictions in the near future, as was promised. In addition, you will have to put aside some time in the next few months, in order to learn some new things that are necessary for you and our mission. You will also meet more with Miriam, whom you should educate in certain things. In addition, Anatol will also be involved more often. But now, enough for today. Goodbye, and dear greetings to the group members, also from Simya-se, who is still staying on Era.
Many thanks. Then take care and goodbye.
Billy's contact from the 1st of June, 1981 by Eva Bieri, Switzerland.
It was Sunday evening, and we had been spraying the gardens until about midnight because it had been very hot for days and there was no rain. For my part, I had night watch from midnight to 3 hours that night and sat on the sofa in front of the house. Billy walked around a bit and looked at everything. Rolf the guard was also still awake and sitting on the seat. When Billy passed the sofa where I was sitting, he said to me that he felt as if he had to go to a contact tonight. As he walked towards the nearby forest, I naturally thought he was walking to his contact spot. So I watched him until he disappeared and then looked up at the beautiful starry sky. After about 10 minutes, I heard a very soft but distinct sound coming from the forest where Billy had disappeared. Rolf heard it too, got up, came over to me and asked where Billy was. My answer was that I did not know and that he should go to bed. He just said, "Did I also hear the noises?" "Of course," I answered him, and by now I had recognized the sound as the whirring of Simya-se or Quetzal's spaceship, something I knew very well because I had been present at tape recordings the year before when Billy and some other persons had been able to record the sound of Simya-se's beamship when it was not shielded against the escaping sound noise. But I did not really want to bring that up to Rolf. So he went into the house, and I thought he had actually gone to bed. But I was wrong, because after another 20 minutes, Billy came back and asked me who had gone along the little path in the Surwees, because he had seen someone when he was sitting at the edge of the forest. Of course, that could only have been Rolf, who had gone out the back door to see what had sounded so suspicious. So contact had not yet been made. Instead, Billy woke up his wife, Poppy. She had to continue the vigil because I now had to take Billy to the contact site by car. We drove off, but the drive did not take long because it only went as far as Seedlig, where Billy had already had contact several times. We got out together and looked around when Billy suddenly said, "Look, do you see something at the edge of the forest there?" I looked and indeed spotted a brightly glimmering and large light about 300 meters away, shining more and less intensely at one time. It was Quetzal's ship. Billy told me to sit down on the bench under the tree in the car park, and then I did not move as Billy marched towards the light. After about 2 minutes, I heard the familiar whirring of Quetzal's ship again, and I still thought he was doing it on purpose so that I would have something to grin about. Of course, that was not the case. Logically not. Billy explained to me later that when he got on, sometimes the sound shielding of the ship was opened too early, so that the whirring could be heard. I remained rooted to my seat, not daring to take a step forward, because I knew that the Pleiadians did not like it at all when you approached them. Every now and then I looked around to make sure that no one was approaching and that everything was also quiet. But everything was peaceful. Nothing could be heard except the roaring of a roebuck that had apparently been startled by something. Despite everything, I had to yawn heartily a few times before Billy returned after 20 minutes. When I heard his footsteps, I watched intently Quetzal's ship, which had been glowing continuously for the past 20 minutes, but I saw nothing more except that the intense glow of the ship suddenly just went out. When Billy was back, we got back into the car and drove home, where I continued my vigil, which I extended until 4H chars, because I also had all kinds of office work to do.